Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Sallallahu sallam wa barak ala nabiyina Muhammadin wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh, and good morning Instagram fam, friends and followers of as-Saafiy, and welcome to another episode of Revert Reflections. So brothers and sisters, quite a few weeks ago we started this series, Back to Basics. And obviously I felt that it was very, very important for us to go back to the basics of our religion, because we all need, whether we are new Muslims, revert Muslims, or Muslims who have been Muslims for generations, or Islam has been in our family for generations, regardless of where we are in our journey to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and how that journey came to be, we all need to have a good grasp on the fundamentals of our religion. Also, I felt that the Back to Basics series was very important because religion is basically under siege. And religious people, more and more, wherever you turn, are vilified and seen as the problem. And so it's important for us to understand why we believe. Why are we believers? And why we should continue to believe even though we feel that we have been made the enemies of everyone and everything, the enemies of progress. And so in this Back to Basics series, we spent a lot of time talking about Allah. And we did that for obvious reasons, because Islam is a God-centered faith. It is not a faith where we talk about believing in God and then turn around and center the faith around a prophet, center the faith around a saintly person, center the faith around other created beings, animals that we worship, a miraculous event, center the faith around a place presumed to be holy. No, our faith is a God-centered, Allah-centered faith, and therefore the focus of any conversation going back to the basics of Islam has to begin with a great deal of conversation about Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that we worship. And we started out these discussions on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the one that we believe in and the one that we worship, with a number of discussions on who is Allah. And that is because a major part of believing in Allah is knowing Him. How can we claim to believe in a God that we don't know? And so we need to know who He is. What does He do? What are the actions that He does that no one else can do that make Him Allah, that make Him God? What are the names and attributes by which He is called? And if we have the knowledge of who He is, His names, His abilities, His qualities in our hearts, it will make us love Him. It will make us fear Him. It will make us have hope for His mercy. And these are the stirs of the heart that will drive us toward worshiping as He ought to be worshipped. And then most recently, after having those discussions about who is Allah, we spent a great deal of time, brothers and sisters, pointing out why we should believe in and be convinced of Allah's existence. And that is because the arguments of the godless atheists are pervading. They're all around us. We're all confronted by them, whether we're in school, whether we are at work, whether we are just in society, intermingling with people, reading articles, reading books. Just wherever we are, we see the arguments of the people who say God doesn't exist, He can't exist, it doesn't make sense for us to believe in His existence, etc. And we as believers are constantly confronted by that. And it is important, it is essential that we are able to dismantle the arguments of the atheists or the arguments of atheism when confronted by them as individuals. Doesn't mean that we have to get on a soapbox and shout them down. But when we hear the things that they say and the arguments that they make, we have to be able to internally dismantle them when we're confronted with them and see right through them, see how flimsy they are, see how weak they are, in order not to be fooled or have our faith shaken by them. So we spent some time talking about that. And most recently, after spending time talking about the arguments themselves and trying to dismantle them, we talked about some of the signs, the clear indications that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, because what does that do? When you look around you and you see all of these signs that clearly prove that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala exists, it prevents you from what? Having any doubt about His existence. That's critical, because we can't believe in a God that we question or we're agnostic about whether or not he exists. Now, brothers and sisters, we turn our discussion to the most important aspect of believing in Allah. And it is related to and the answer to the oft posed question, why are we here? What is the purpose of life? And the answer, as Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala emphatically states throughout the Quran, and in one particular verse in the Quran, in Surah Al-Dhariyat toward the end, is we are here to worship Allah. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, وَمَا خَلَقْتُ الْجِنَّ وَالْإِنسَ إِلَّا لِيَعْبُدُونَ. I have not created jinnkind and mankind except to worship me. But what exactly does that mean from the Islamic perspective? And do we as Muslims have the right understanding of what that means? Are we living because Allah is telling us the purpose of life, the reason why we're here? The question we have to ask ourselves as Muslims, are we living a purpose-driven life? A life driven by, influenced by, informed by that purpose, the purpose of worshiping Allah. Is worship something that you do here and there throughout the day, and the rest of your life is divorced from that worship? Is that what it means when Allah says, I have not created you except to worship me? So this is where we turn our focus, inshallah ta'ala, our attention, brothers and sisters, for the next few days. We'll be looking at the purpose-driven life. What does it mean to make your life a life where you're worshiping Allah? What does it mean when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says, I've created you, O believers, O Muslims, O human beings, O mankind, I've created you for no other purpose except to worship me? How do we balance between that and living? How do we make our lives a purpose-driven life? How do we fill our lives with the worship of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and fulfill our purpose while at the same time not ignoring or neglecting our other responsibilities? We'll start to look at that, inshallah ta'ala, beginning tomorrow. Until then, brothers and sisters, we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala as always to bless your houses, to bless your spouses, to bless your children, your families, to bless your sources of livelihood and income, to bless you and make you blessed wherever you may be. We ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bi asma'il husna wa sifatil ula to shower you with his blessings and to surround you with his protection. هذا وصلى الله وسلم وبارك على ابن محمد وعلى آله وصحبه أجمعين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.